Hello everyone, and welcome to an opening video in which I talk about a knight sacrifice in the Sicilian Defense, which I basically invented. And I do want to say before we start, no, I was not really the person who invented this. According to Lead Chess, it has been played just over 1,000 times. However, I do think I'm one of the first people to actually look at the theory for this opening, and I think I might be the first person ever to make a video or a blog post or something like that about it. But enough said, let's get into the opening. So it comes after we play pawn to e4, and black plays pawn to c5. And I do want to say there are actually two ways to get to the position where we gambit a knight. I'll show the more popular way right now, and I'll show the other way right afterwards. So we will play knight to f3, and they respond with knight to c6, the secondary main line. We will play pawn to d4, they will take it, we take back for knight, and now they play pawn to e5. This is known as the Löwenthal variation, and has been played just over 1.2 million times, so it's not something you're going to see only once in a lifetime. So we'll play knight to b5, and they will play pawn to d6. Now this is the Kalashnikov variation, and we will develop our knight to c3. The main line here goes pawn to a6, and the main move here, with over just 200,000 games, is knight back to a3. However, if we play this, now they get this move pawn to b5, and this is just very awkward for us. This knight on a3 just isn't really helping us, and according to the engine, this is completely fine for us, and the win rate also is just about fine. White wins about 48% of games here, and black wins about 46%. However, there's actually a sacrifice in this position, knight to d5. And this bumps up that number from 48% of wins for white to 63%. Black only wins 33% of games, which is just crazy low and crazy high numbers. But before we actually get into all the theory, I just want to show you the other way to get here, a little less popular way. So they will play pawn to d6, and we respond with, once again, pawn to d4. They will take it, we take back for knight, and now they play knight to c6. It's a little rare to see this move on the fourth move instead of the fifth move, but it's still played a lot. So now we play knight c3, and once again pawn to e5, and now knight to b5, and once again we will transpose into the same line. So pawn to a6, and instead of going knight back to a3, we play the sacrifice knight to d5. So we are threatening to get into c7 here, using both our knights to get a fork on the rook and king. So they have to prevent it, and the easiest way to do that is to take our knight, which they almost always will do, and now we play the move bishop to e3. At first glance, this move kind of looks like madness. Why would we ever play this? However, it has a very specific idea. The third most popular move here, knight to f6, falls right into this idea and is actually just a blunder. The third most popular move, a complete blunder, because here we play the idea with bishop to b6. Now this move is defended by the knight and attacks their queen, and what it does is it frees up, or it protects this c7 square for a knight to hop into and get a fork on their rook and king. The only safe square for their queen to go to is up to d7, at which point now we play knight to c7 check. Obviously they don't want to hop into the line of sight of our bishop, so they'll run up to e7, at which point we simply take our rook. And I'll show you the engine's best moves for a few moves here, but essentially we're going to end up exfilling our knight out of here, at which point we'll just be solidly up a few points of material. So they will take our e-pawn, and now we take their b-pawn with our bishop. In all these positions, this b-pawn is always hanging. So now they play the move pawn to g6, planning to get their bishop out to h6, because obviously they can't develop this way because there's a pawn and a king. So we will simply castle here, at which point now they play bishop to h6. We will play queen to e2, connecting our rooks as well as attacking their knight in the center. So they will play pawn to f5, defending their knights, and now we simply play knight to c7. We are going to exfil our knight out of here, at which point we'll just be up 2 points of material and consolidated. So now I will look at what is their most popular move, which is trying to prevent this idea with rook up to a6. Now obviously we can't play this idea now, because then they can just sacrifice the rook for 2 pieces and we are down 4 points of material and completely lost. So instead we will take on b5 with our bishop. This attacks their rook, so they pretty much have to move it. According to the engine, the best move for them here is to play bishop to e7 and just sacrifice a rook, which, I mean, unless you know this beforehand or you play it as a mistake, nobody is pretty much ever going to play this against you. And yeah, this is just even material, and according to the engine, black is still slightly better here. So what almost everybody does here is play the move queen to a5, because it looks like a fork of our bishop here and our king. So obviously we will have to move our knight back or something like that and be a little bit more passive. However, here we can actually play a very aggressive move, pawn to b4, just attacking their queen. Now they actually just cannot take this bishop, because now we've attracted their queen into a fork with their king, and now just simply knight to c7 check, and we just win their queen, which would obviously be horrible for them. So the only thing that they can really do is run back to d8. There is a little trap here. If they try moving their queen up to a3, then we have an incredible move here. Bishop to c1, undeveloping our bishop, and the queen is trapped. The queen somehow has 0 squares to go to, which is just completely insane. So they're going to have to sacrifice on a2, and after we take it, we just have a fantastic position here, and we're up material. So after their queen runs back to d8, now we will simply take the rook, they will take back, and now we play this move pawn to c4, gluing our knight into the center, as well as just taking a lot of space on the queen side, and this is just an even material position, where according to the engine, we are just slightly better. So now we will look at what their second most popular move is, knight to d4, which is actually just another mistake. However, it's only a mistake if we take advantage of it in a very specific way. Now we will take their knight, they will take back, and now we do not want to take this pawn, because if we do, then they can simply play bishop to d7, and now they have consolidated a 2 material advantage, and this is just a very bad position for us. So instead, we're going to take on b5 with check first. Obviously, they're going to block the bishop, and now we simply take it. And in more than half of the games here, people will actually take the queen, which is just a blunder, because now knight to b6 is just a fork of their queen and rook, so they have to move back. We will take the rook, and after they take back, now we take on d4, and we have ended up just winning a pawn with a much better position. So after we take their bishop, now they will actually have to take with their king, but now we will simply take their pawn in the center. And yes, we are still down at 1 point of material here, however we have a lot of compensation for that pawn. So now I will look at their 2 good responses. The first one is to play the move rook up to a4. You obviously have to defend this e-pawn, since if we play something like bishop to b6 now, then they can simply nab our e-pawn, and after we move our bishop, then simply queen to g5 for them, attacking this pawn, and if we even play knight to c7 check, they can just run their king, and we are down 4 points of material here with just not nearly enough of compensation. So we have to defend it, preferably with pawn to f3, and now they sacrifice their rook with rook to d4. I mean, unless you're like a very high rated player or a master, nobody's going to play this against you. So if they do somehow end up playing this, then we will simply take it. They'll take back their knight. We kick it out with pawn to c3. They jump back, and now we take their b5 pawn. And this is simply even material. And once again, according to the engine, this is slightly better for black, but I truly have 0 idea what that compensation is. So now I'll look at what their best move is, which is pretty rare, I must say. I think it's the 5th or 6th most common move on League chess, and that is the move bishop to e6, planning to weather the storm after bishop to b6. So they obviously have to move their queen, so they will play queen to b8. Now we play knight to c7 check, their king walks up, we take their rook, and after they take back, now we simply take on b5. And once again, this is an even material position. However, according to the engine, they have a slight advantage here. What that advantage is, I truly have no idea. Alright, so that is all I have for you today. Like, subscribe, do all that stuff, and I will see you next time. Thank you so much for watching.